you love the movie Ford v Ferrari, stick around because I'm going to roast the critics who hated this film. But first, here is this week's mystery review. I will read the review of a movie, and you have to guess what movie that review is in reference to. If you think you know the answer, leave your guess down below and I just may call you out. The review is a boorishly bland supernatural action thriller. I will read the answer at the end of this video. Let's roast the critics who hated Ford v Ferrari. Peter Bradshaw from The Guardian gives Ford v Ferrari a rotten score. He says, great looking, handsomely produced, but tiringly acted and inert. Peter here is going to make the claim that Matt Damon and Christian Bale were anything less than extraordinary in this movie? What? Start collecting coconuts, Peter, because you are the only one on that island, sir. And to call this movie, of every movie ever made, to call this one inert? Yeah, so calling Ford v Ferrari inert is like saying that Forrest Gump has the body of Mother Teresa and the heart of Madonna. No matter how it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So let's go on to the next person here. We have Norman Wilner from Now Toronto gives Ford v Ferrari a rotten score and says, it's not about anything. Oh, these people. It's about racing, the spectacle, hot cars, adrenaline, the American dream. It's about all those good things compiled into one fantastic movie, and these critics aren't getting it. All right, James Clay from Fresh Fiction gives Ford v Ferrari a rotten score and says, this pompous piece of filmmaking is surprising coming from Mangold, who has found a groove as a director, making very entertaining yet reserved films. Pompous. This is the airiest real-life drama ever put to the big screen. It's not afraid to make people laugh, it's easy to follow, and at 2.5 hours, if it went any longer than that, very few people would complain. This movie left us actually wanting more, not wanting it to end. This complaint came from somebody who is desperately trying not to wet themselves during the film, or they forgot to take their Ritalin before the film. Alright, let's go over to Dustin Chase from Texas Art and Film. James Mangold's talky American racing film sputters off track and bores the audience in the process. Do not speak for me, sir. I am the audience of this film and I am very pleased. Or what audience were you with, Dustin? Statler and Waldorf? Without the puppeteers and their hands up the asses? No, Dustin, you do not get to speak for others, and you certainly don't get to lie about other people's opinions. Look at the scores here. People really enjoyed this movie, and why do you have a job as a film critic if you're supposed to represent the audience seeing movies and you're not representing us correctly? You are blatantly lying. You don't get to call your entire audience bored with this film, when really it was just you and Peter and James Clay and all these whiny little brats who didn't find enjoyment in this wonderful film. Y'all might as well get together and form a club, a I Hate Cars club. Okay, if I'm being honest, I actually don't care for cars. But really, Ford v Ferrari is one of those movies where if you bring it up at work, you're never going to hear somebody say, you like that movie? What are you, a demon elf? Like, no one will ever say anything like that. It is just a fantastic movie that you cannot help but fall in love with. Katie Smith-Wong from Hey You Guys gives Ford v Ferrari a rotten score and says, it's unclear as to where this story takes audiences unless the viewer is a fan of motorsports. False, false, wrong-o, Toledo Wong, wrong-o. Like I mentioned, I don't care for cars, and I love this movie. You don't have to be a fan of motorsports or automotives or anything like that. You just have to be a fan of fun and entertainment and movies. Christian Bale, Matt Damon, you're gonna get the best out of them in this. But yes, Rotten Tomatoes does need to flag this review for false information. Again, I don't give a flying saucer about cars or automotives. And every frame of this movie is filled with joy and entertainment. I don't know how to drill that point home. You see, that's the fun of a biopic that's set in a period of time or deals with an industry that you're not otherwise interested in. It can actually cultivate some curiosity about things that you otherwise would not have been interested in. You learn about new things, and for young people, they just might discover their passions that will carry them into adulthood and possibly blossom into a career. Sean Collier from Pittsburgh Magazine gives Ford v Ferrari a rotten score and says, the film dramatically overstays its welcome. It achieves in 150 minutes what could have been handled in 90. Now look, I know it's a racing movie, but we ain't in no hurry to get to that finish line. No, sir. I can watch this movie on repeat as though we were making laps around the living room. And you've got to remember, this came out in a year where we weren't yet tired of 3.5-hour movies. A long movie was still considered a novelty and money well spent in 2019. So this guy, Sean Collier, would have had a much better time if he just stayed home and watched Moana on Disney+, because that seems to be the only sort of substance he can handle. All right, before I get to the audience reviews, let me read to you the answer to the mystery review I read earlier. The review was, it's a boorishly planned supernatural action thriller. That comes from Garth Franklin from Dark Horizons about 2005's The Fog. It looks like we've got one audience review I want to hit. It comes from Brett C. Gives 4 Feet Ferrari 1 star and says, I finally realized Damon can't act. You shut your mouth, you slanturn. Matt Damon is America's sweetheart. He is our sweetheart. I do want to read to you the most honest review. Comes from Chaos and Collins from Vanity Fair. That's a surprise. Chaos and Collins gives 4 Feet Ferrari a fresh score and says, 4 Feet Ferrari is a good ride and a good example of what so many people are thirsty for. Truth bomb. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to get alerts for when new videos come out. I have just run out of breath, so I will see you in the next video. Roadsters!